The global awakening begins, ladies and gentlemen. We're witnessing something truly remarkable. UPI, built for India, has the world watching in utter disbelief. Can you imagine? The United States, the very birthplace of credit cards, is now looking at this incredible homegrown, open source marvel and asking, wait, how did we miss this? You see, disruption through innovation isn't just about creating something new. It's about forging something so effective, so incredibly efficient, and so undeniably powerful that it absolutely forces the entire world to stop, pay attention, and completely rethink everything it once believed. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to make the world pay attention and rethink everything it once believed. What is UPI? And why it matters globally? How could anything be more different than what we've known? To put it simply, to put it powerfully, UPI, the Unified Payments Interface, is a prime example. It wasn't born out of luxury, but out of sheer necessity. It emerged as a brilliant solution for a country with over 1 billion people, many of whom had never even touched traditional banking systems. And in doing so, it didn't just offer convenience. It completely disrupted the entire financial narrative. While major economies were still bogged down by plastic cards, frustrating transaction fees, and sluggish payment systems, UPI introduced an idea so simple, yet so profoundly powerful. Real-time, frictionless, zero-cost transactions directly between individuals and businesses. And the best part, it's accessible even to someone with just a basic phone and an internet connection. What makes this innovation truly disruptive is how it so quietly bypassed all the expected channels of change. It didn't rely on private corporations or colossal foreign technology giants. It wasn't born in the gleaming towers of Silicon Valley or Wall Street. Instead, it sprang from a public sector vision deeply rooted in inclusion, accessibility, and national infrastructure. The sheer brilliance of UPI lies in its invisibility. People don't need to understand the complex technology humming beneath the surface. They just tap, scan, and go. It simply works. It's incredibly reliable. And it has utterly transformed the daily lives of millions in India, from bustling street vendors and tireless rickshaw drivers to avid online shoppers and even multinational businesses. In this process, UPI didn't just improve India's economy. It set a brand new global benchmark. It vividly highlighted how a digital-first approach could completely leapfrog generations of cumbersome financial bureaucracy and deliver empowerment on an unprecedented scale. For the very first time, the idea that a developing country could actually lead the world in fintech wasn't just a theoretical concept. It became a vivid, undeniable reality. As countries like the United States, once the undisputed titans of financial innovation, watch in disbelief, it's crystal clear that disruption doesn't ask for permission. It simply happens when a system that works for a privileged few is finally challenged by a system that truly works for the many. Innovation truly becomes disruption when it forces the world to catch up. And UPI is doing exactly that. Banks across the globe are frantically rethinking their payment rails. Governments are reevaluating how to effectively serve their unbanked populations. Tech giants are now watching, what once seemed like a localized experiment blossom into a powerful global case study. That, my friends, is the true power of disruption. It doesn't need to knock loudly. It only needs to work better, faster, and more humanely than anything that came before. Why the US is unsettled by India's financial revolution. The empowerment of the common people through UPI isn't just a technological advancement. It's a profound social transformation. For decades, financial systems around the world have been built in ways that, perhaps unintentionally or even deliberately, excluded those without wealth, without formal education, or without access to established banking infrastructure. But UPI changed all of that. It created a genuinely level playing field where every single citizen, regardless of their background, could participate in the economy with dignity and ease. Suddenly, a vegetable vendor in a remote town, a rickshaw driver in a bustling city, or a student in a village hostel possessed the exact same power to send and receive money as a high-powered corporate executive, no longer dependent on middlemen, on cash, or on complex, confusing procedures. Ordinary people gained direct access to digital finance entirely on their own terms. The sheer brilliance of UPI truly lies in its simplicity. It doesn't demand expensive high-end smartphones, mountains of lengthy paperwork, or hidden, expensive service charges. All it requires is a basic mobile phone, a bank account, and an internet connection. The process is remarkably intuitive. Scan a QR code, tap a few buttons, and the transaction is done. This incredible ease of use made digital literacy not a prerequisite, but a natural byproduct. As more and more people used it, they learned by simply doing. This natural empowerment, without the need for stuffy classrooms or lengthy seminars, redefined what accessibility truly means. For the first time, millions who were previously invisible to the digital economy became active contributors and vital beneficiaries of it. This empowerment also fostered a deep sense of confidence and independence. When individuals no longer had to stand in endlessly long queues, wait for slow approvals, or constantly rely on others to handle their hard-earned money, they began to trust themselves more. Small businesses could flourish and grow without needing vast physical infrastructure. Workers could receive their salaries instantly, without any frustrating delays or deductions. Parents could send money to their children across the country in real time. These aren't just conveniences. They are profound freedoms. They fundamentally shift the balance of power, placing it squarely into the hands of the very people who make the economy move every single day. Moreover, the psychological shift was truly profound. People began to feel seen, capable, and genuinely connected. The barriers that had once made financial participation feel utterly out of reach were completely broken down. And this empowerment wasn't limited to the bustling cities or the educated elite. It reached the farthest corners of the country, touching lives that had never before been considered a part of formal financial world. It showed that true progress isn't just about impressive GDP numbers or soaring stock market figures. It's about whether the system truly works for everyone, especially for those who have historically been left behind. A shift in power. Tech as the new weapon, global shock and awe erupted. Not because a war was fought or a crisis unfolded, but because a powerful new idea quietly began rewriting the very rules of finance. India's unified payments interface was never just a technical advancement. It became a resounding wake-up call to the world. For years, Western economies, particularly the United States, confidently viewed themselves as the undisputed pioneers of innovation in banking and financial technology. Credit cards, digital wallets, and massive payment processors shaped the entire landscape, with their inevitable fees, frustrating delays, and institutional control simply accepted as the norm. But then came UPI, a system so exquisitely simple, so flawlessly seamless, and so incredibly powerful that it utterly shattered all those long-held assumptions and left many global observers completely stunned. What truly caught the world off guard was not just UPI's incredible functionality, but its sheer reach and unparalleled accessibility. In just a few short years, it connected hundreds of millions of people across India, enabling real-time transactions with absolutely zero fees. The global reaction was a fascinating mix of genuine admiration and utter disbelief. How could a country that had once been labeled as a developing economy leapfrog so incredibly far ahead in this crucial space? Empowering 1.4 billion people at their fingertips. Imagine something as complex as digital payments. Empowering 1.4 billion people right at their fingertips. How did a government-led initiative manage to outpace private sector giants, even those backed by billions of dollars? This wasn't something anyone expected. Analysts, economists, and even think tanks certainly didn't predict it. And that unpredictability is precisely what made it so incredibly powerful. Suddenly, governments, banks, and fintech companies worldwide began asking some very difficult questions. If India could build an open-source, real-time payment system of this magnitude, then why were their own systems still charging high transaction fees, requiring 3-day settlements, or struggling with basic interoperability beyond just technology? A new global order. This wasn't just about the technology itself. It was about what it symbolized. The Unified Payments Interface, or UPI, became undeniable proof that innovation is no longer the sole domain of the West. It unveiled a new global order, one where leadership could emerge from anywhere, driven not by dominance, but by brilliant design and vision. The surprise rippled through the tech industry as well. Silicon Valley, once considered the undisputed epicenter of all things disruptive, suddenly found itself studying and, in some cases, even attempting to replicate elements of UPI. The sheer volume of UPI transactions, billions per month, absolutely dwarfed most existing systems. Its incredible ability to handle microtransactions, provide rural access, and scale without crashing or clogging the system raised eyebrows everywhere. UPI didn't just join the conversation. It led it. UPI didn't just enter the conversation. It forced its way to the front, prompting even established players to completely rethink their strategies. It redefined what efficiency, inclusiveness, and scale truly looked like. This wasn't just India's moment. It was a moment for the entire world to reassess what was possible. And, more importantly, who was now setting the pace. For the longest time, Global innovation was a story written by the few, by countries with long-standing infrastructure, massive capital, and immense global influence. The world had grown accustomed to looking toward the same centers of power for new ideas. But then, something truly unexpected happened. The underdog stepped forward. From villages to Silicon Valley, India's global impact UPI emerged from India not as an imitation of the West's financial systems, but as a completely new framework designed from the ground up for the people who had historically been left behind. It didn't try to follow old models. Instead, it set out to solve a uniquely local challenge with a vision that eventually became global in impact. And that's when the world truly began to pay attention. Because true leadership doesn't always roar. It often starts as a whisper that simply refuses to be silenced. For a long time, India had been viewed through the lens of its challenges: poverty, inequality, population pressure, and developing infrastructure. But it was in that very landscape that UPI was born. It was a bold response to the pressing need for inclusivity, digital empowerment, and a cashless economy that genuinely didn't leave the common person behind. The brilliance of UPI is that it wasn't built for the elite. It was built for everyone, from street vendors to students, from farmers to urban professionals. UPI became the bridge between aspiration and access. It transformed the smartphone into a bank, the QR code into a gateway, and trust into the new currency of exchange, breaking the monopoly of Western banking. What makes this story truly remarkable is that this profound transformation didn't come from corporate monopolies or foreign investors. It was crafted by public institutions with an unwavering commitment to the national good. This wasn't just a financial reform. It was a powerful declaration that India, often underestimated, could lead the world in something that truly matters. And lead it did. The sheer scale, reliability, and inclusivity of UPI outpaced legacy systems that had been in place for decades in more advanced economies, while others were still navigating red tape and gatekeeping. UPI had already reached the last mile. This shift wasn't just technological. It was psychological. The underdog didn't just catch up. It raced ahead with clarity and confidence. And in doing so, it shattered the myth that innovation is a luxury only the powerful can afford. UPI reminded the world that hunger, necessity, and resilience are often the greatest accelerators of change. It proves that when a nation refuses to accept limitations and instead chooses to rewrite its own narrative, the world has no choice but to watch, learn, and eventually follow. True progress, born from necessity, vision, and courage, breaking the monopoly of progress means shattering the long-held belief that innovation, advancement, and leadership can only come from a few privileged nations or institutions. For decades, the global narrative has been dominated by the same voices, the same countries, companies, and ideologies, shaping what is possible and who gets to decide the future. But progress is not a product exclusive to the West, nor is it reserved for the wealthy or the technologically advanced. True progress is born from necessity, vision, and the courage to challenge what's always been. The rise of UPI has become a powerful example of this truth. It wasn't Silicon Valley or Wall Street that created the most inclusive and scalable digital payment system in the world. It was India, a country once labeled as a follower in technology, that has become a leader not by copying old models, but by designing a completely new one. The rise of financial democracy, this shift, isn't just about a new way to pay. It represents a fundamental redistribution of power in the world of ideas. When a developing nation creates a system that outcompetes and outscales what the most powerful economies have built, it proves that genius, creativity, and practical solutions aren't exclusive to the rich. The world is being forced to confront a new reality. Progress can emerge from anywhere. The arrogance that once dismissed innovation from the global south is crumbling in the face of undeniable results. UPI has done more than streamline transactions. It has made a profound statement. A country with vision, willpower, and clarity can lead, even without the traditional markers of power. This disruption extends far beyond finance. It challenges our global perceptions of competence, leadership, and potential. It shows us that if the structures of progress have been gate-kept, then those gates are no longer locked. The digital world is being democratized, not by invitation, but by transformation. UPI has ushered in a new chapter where open source, public, focused innovation doesn't just compete with private enterprise. It surpasses it. This is deeply unsettling to the old world order, because it means their dominance is no longer guaranteed. The monopoly on progress is being broken, not through protest or politics, but through irrefutable results, a solution that works so well it simply cannot be ignored. The idea that only certain nations hold the keys to the future is dissolving. The playing field is shifting. The rules are being rewritten. And with each QR code scanned, with each rupee transferred in real time, the illusion of exclusive control over progress fades further into history. UPI, as India's silent weapon against economic dependency. The rise of UPI is more than just a case study in digital success. It's a powerful call to action for the next generation. It challenges young minds everywhere to rethink what leadership, innovation, and impact truly mean. UPI wasn't born in a boardroom of billion-dollar corporations. It didn't emerge from countries traditionally seen as centers of progress. It came from a place where the stakes were real, where the problems weren't theoretical, and where solutions had to serve not just the elite, but everyone. And that should ignite a fire in every young dreamer, coder, policymaker, and entrepreneur watching from the sidelines. Because what UPI represents is a simple, powerful truth. You don't have to come from a place of power to build something powerful. The next generation stands at a historic crossroads. Technology is accessible. The world is connected. And barriers that once felt insurmountable are being broken every day. If UPI could be built to connect 1 billion people and still run faster, cheaper, and more inclusively than most systems in the world, then what is stopping the youth from building something even bigger? This is not the time to wait for validation, to ask for permission, or to simply follow what has already been done. It is the time to observe, to understand deeply, and then to disrupt courageously. Look at your community. Identify what's broken, what's missing, and what people have simply accepted as unchangeable. Because hidden in those everyday problems are the seeds of revolutionary ideas. UPI shook the global financial ecosystem by answering a problem too many had ignored. That same clarity, that same hunger to serve the underserved, lives inside every visionary who dares to look past limitations. The future will not be written by those who imitate what already exists. It will be shaped by those who believe that new answers must come from new places. Final words. The new kings don't wear crowns. There is a generation rising that doesn't accept old excuses. A generation that is more connected to reality, more empathetic, more technologically fluent, and more fearless than ever before. The question isn't whether you are capable of building something extraordinary. The real question is whether you are willing to begin, whether you are ready to fail fast, learn quickly, and keep going even when no one is watching. Because that's what UPI did. It wasn't built in the spotlight. It was built with a purpose. So, what is your purpose? What are you willing to create? Not for applause, but for impact. The world doesn't just need more apps or gadgets. It needs visionaries, builders, dreamers who are doers. The era of waiting is over. The next revolution is waiting to be born through your hands.